welcome to the Keelhauled podcast. I'm your host, Captain Logan, and we've got a lot of Sea of Thieves news to cover today, so tie yourselves to the mast and hold fast. Ahoy there, pirates. I hope you had yourselves a good week and a good weekend. I know I did. This week, we are going to be diving into the latest episode of the Sea of Thieves podcast, episode 10. We're going to be talking a little bit about that because there's some highlights that I thought I'd let you know about, but we got some new content. We got content in a way that I don't think that would really explain well if I just gave you a tagline. So we'll have to get into that, but we're going to cover the patch notes as well as questions that came in this week. All that and more in this week's episode of the Keelhauled podcast. But before I get into any of that, I have to thank the patrons because they're the ones that are supporting this content. They're the ones that are helping me and my wife get to SoT Fest in the UK so that I can have a fantastic birthday. I can see my friends, I can go see the developers, and I'll also get to go and actually do a live recording, something that I want to get help with from you. I'm going to need your help with that. So I don't know if I'll have anyone to record with me. So it's going to be me up on a stage, taking questions, talking about the game. I'm going to see if I can get some content creators up there with me so that it's not just myself alone on the big stage, which would be really weird. But I want to see all the people that I can up there, and the right now the gold hoarders, the patrons, are the ones that are helping out with that. So I wanted to thank them as always, as I do every single episode. Thank you to People's Republic, El Cute, Balls, Bam Bam Bagel, Captain Hasco, Captain Hayes, Chateau Neuf, Zombie Killer, Cloud, Cosmic Johnson, Static Mirror, Davram TV, El Jefe Esteban, Fergatron, Godhammer 6, Jabaro 5, Carl Embo, Kazia the Rogue, Nightstar, Lumpy SRQ, Evil Morpheus, Xbox Mike 29, Murphy Lives, Mutinous Max, Raja the Brave, Regis Stella, Replicated Flame, Rustbelt Kid, Norwegian, Skamelt 666, Captain Dasm, That Kilted Guy, Tien Professor, Real Big Tuna, Big Bad Pad, Mina Fairy, Super Pack, Music Me, The Lore Chronologist, Deadeye Dre, Hager Owl, Jeff H, Ghost Boy 20, Evil Martha, Peter Miller, Rooski Doo, Thor Von Blitz, Windsor Chris, and Zamwow. Thank you all so much for your support. I love all of you. You guys really do make my life easier. I can't thank you enough for the support. It really does mean the world to me. So if you want to support, if you're listening to this and you want to help contribute to Keelhauled Podcast, you like the content, head over to patreon.com/Keelhauled Podcast. Pick a tier that works for you for as long as you want, and I will graciously announce your name on the podcast. Thank you so much. With that, let's get into the content. First on today's docket, we're going to dive into the time-sensitive content because if you're listening to this, you want to know as soon as possible that right now you can get double rewards. In fact, there's going to be double rewards for each of the different trade companies for the next week. Double rewards for gold hoarders only today. Order of Souls starts in, Gold hoarders is for February 20th. Order of Souls is February 21st. Merchant Alliance is for February 22nd. The Hunter's Call is for February 23rd. Guardians and Servants are for February 24th. And then from February 25th to February 27th, I don't know why I was stumbling on that, is Gold and Glory. They're capping off the week when Gold and Glory weekend. All Gold and Reputation rewards are doubled with bonuses to Renown and Allegiance 2. Now, the thing that is fantastic about this is that they're expanding Gold and Glory to a full week. I'm not sure that I'm a fan of them doing like only one day for like each trade company. If I had my druthers, and I think we've talked about this in the past, I would love them to do this every weekend, but every weekend be a different trade company. So we've got 4 different trade companies that you can really focus on, and that being like the Servants and the Guardians, the Gold Hoarders, the Order Souls, and the Merchant Alliance. And then the hunter's call, I don't know. I really don't know how you would work that in, but typically every month you get at least 4 weeks, right? And then if there's a 5th week, you could have a 5th week be the Golden Glory. But just to try and give these little incentives for folks to drive some of their commendations and gold earning through different weekends, have them switch off. I think World of Warcraft does a fantastic job of having mini events throughout the year, and these mini events are every year that you have the same thing, but they also have kind of week periods where during the week they have access to old content through time walking. So they'll go into the past and they'll take old content and they'll raise it up, or they'll lower you down to the appropriate level of that content so that you can go back and revisit some of that old stuff that's been in the game for the last 15, 16 some years, ever since 2004. And that is something I could see Sea of Thieves doing. We have enough trade companies. We have the ledger systems. I could definitely see them starting to have like Gold Hoarder Week, or Order of Souls Week, or Merchant Alliance Week, or Hunter's Call. And then, have 1 or 2 a month with, like a Golden Glory for Community Day. So that way there's a little bit of repetition going in with the different weeks. Every month there's going to be at least a couple different factions that you can kind of focus on during that week of the month. So that way, if you're working on your ledgers and you're not quite sure what to do, you think, okay, well, it's this week. We happen to be on a double gold in reputation for Order of Souls. Why don't we start working on some skeleton forts? Why don't we start doing some of those skeleton missions that we haven't been doing for a long time? We'll pull out the old Order of Souls Gilded Voyage from the holiday, and we'll throw that down and go blow up some skeletons. We'll go work on this or that, and have ways to kind of showcase a trade company for an entire week as opposed to one day. Because as much as I would love to be able to play every single day, I have a lot on my plate, and I'm willing to bet I could be wrong. I know some of you sweats out there, you're sitting there thinking, nah, all I play is Sea of Thieves. As I've kind of like gotten into making content outside of Sea of Thieves with like the Xbox wrap up, and then now like the Xbox expansion pass, I've been trying to stay up to date with other games. That means I've been playing a lot of Deliver Us Mars. I've been playing, I just tried out the Like a Dragon, or Like a Dragon Ishin demo that just came out. Plus, we got Metroid Primes. There's so many games out there to be playing. So I've been trying to keep Sea of Thieves like in the purview, make sure I'm still playing it. I'm having a good time, especially on the weekend when I'm streaming it, and make sure that I'm keeping up on my ledgers, because that's kind of like that's where I like to kind of make sure that I'm getting the content that's available to me while I work towards bigger goals, right? I think everyone wants to try and get those ledgers done, and right now I think I'm sitting just below where I need to be for Athena's Fortune. So I'm going to be looking for February 24th, when we start getting the double gold and double allegiance throughout the day. Actually, you know what? I take that back. The Guardians and Servant stuff. The note for this says that it's battle for the Sea of Thieves rages on. Participants in faction battles will earn double allegiance throughout the day. So if I want to do that, I'm going to have to go do battles. I can't just go do Veil missions, which is kind of a nice way to go and say like, hey, if you enjoyed the Golden Glory Community Day that was going on, not this weekend, but the weekend prior, then, you can have a little bit of that for one day. So I'll probably go out there and see if I can get some battles in. But then at least like the Golden Glory weekend will be going for the next 3 days. If I had to give any feedback again to Rare, I gotta say doing this stuff at the end of the month is really, really tough for those of us who've been slowly working on it throughout the entire month, because we could have ourselves in a fairly secure position throughout the entire month. We keep an eye on it. We make sure that we're as high above it as we can get. And then Golden Glory will come in at the end of the month, and so many people will try to capitalize on that. And if you can't make that weekend, it's definitely very possible to get pushed out of that top bracket, which has happened to me a couple times. And it always seems to happen because of a Golden Glory weekend. Throughout the rest of the months, usually it's not too big of an issue, but there's usually one Golden Glory at the end of each month where I get knocked out of the top tier because I'm trying to stay on top of all of the other ones, and I have to just push that faction to another month, and it is kind of frustrating. Now, granted, we do get 3 months every season for sure to be able to start working on the ledgers, so it's not too bad, but every time they introduce new content, for folks that can't play too often, they start to fall by the wayside. And I always try to keep those in the back of my mind when I'm thinking about like implementations for content in the future and how Rare decides to do a lot of these events. Now, we did get a really nice question in that was that came in from the actual Twitch. So, or not Twitch. What am I thinking? Twitch. It came in from Twitter. So I put the call out on Twitter. I wanted to see like what kind of questions y'all have. And one of the questions that I got actually came from Ghost Boy, one of the actual patrons. It said, should Rare bring back Fortnite Fridays and other events like this? And I have to say, yeah, I do think they should. The events tab in Sea of Thieves has been pretty lackluster. Now, if you go into the events tab next to the actual season plunder pass, you'll always have kind of like those daily things you can kind of do. They've always got like a 1,001 and a 3,001, and then you've got kind of like the golden hour, which is like between 5 or 6 or 6 or 7, depending on what time frame it is for me. Compared to GMT, but for everyone else, and also please, Rare, if you guys can normalize the time zones so that it shows the local time, that would be fantastic. I would really, that's a quality of life feature I would love to have, to be able to see the golden hour in my own local time zone, represented based on where my IP is. That would be fantastic if you guys could figure out how to make that work, because there's some that's like EST and then GMT, and it's like I have to break out the calculator and start doing the math, and I usually have this stuff down pat, but yeah, if it could show local time zones, that would be fantastic. But getting back to the question that Ghostboy put in, Rare used to have Fortnite Fridays, and which is a funny play on words given that they're both now games as a service, that you would be able to have like some pretty good like rewards for turning in fort loot. And I think you could do something like this, going back to kind of the World of Warcraft stuff where, you know, they would have time walking content for older stuff that would take you down to that level. Likewise with Sea of Thieves, having a week where it is the gold hoarders a week, or, you know, having like a gold hoarder Thursday, or an Order of Souls week where the more skeleton captains you kill and or the more skeleton ships you sink, the more renown you get for that, or the more reputation that you get for that, stuff like that. You know, I think that would be really interesting to kind of like toy around with, and that's kind of what they're doing with this, right? Like the double rewards thing is kind of a way for them to say like, hey, you know, we typically just do golden glory, but what would happen, and how much engagement would people have if they started to work on certain trade factions for one day at a time? And we'll test this out for a week and see how people see if people actually engage with it. The main concern that I have is that it is so short notice that unless you're paying attention to socials, or you're listening to content or watching streamers talk about it, it's going to be a real tough time for folks that aren't making Sea of Thieves their main game to really jump on to this to take advantage, which, you know, helps facilitate what I do for fun with the podcast, but it does make it a lot tougher because I want to try and get this content out for you. So just to kind of wrap things up with this, for the next week, we're going to be having a trade company focus for each day leading up into a Gold and Glory weekend. And if I recall correctly, we're actually going to be getting more drops this weekend for that Golden Glory weekend as well. So we should be able to get more of the, what's it called? Oh, I just blanked on the name. What are the Twitch drops called? It's not we already got the Celestial stuff out of the way, but we should be getting more of the Eastern Winds Sapphire set, which is the brown set. I'm pretty sure that I really feel like I need to check myself on this, but I'm pretty sure we're getting more of those. Let me actually switch it. I'm going to go take a look. Okay. I'm not crazy. I did remember this correctly. We are, in fact, getting more Eastern Wind Sapphire set, which, again, mostly brown, but that's okay. We're going to be getting the 24th through the 27th. It's going to be the belt, the dress, the gloves, and the hat. So starting on the 24th of February, which is just, I believe that's the Thursday or Friday. Let me take a look, because actually I should probably know this too, because I got stuff I got to do around that time. Okay, so it starts on Friday and it goes till Monday. You have 4 items that you need to watch, and you need to watch 1 hour per item and claim that item before you can start on the next hour. And again, I have to tell you all, if you're using Chrome, go to the Google store, look up automatic Twitch. It's a drop moments and points system. It automatically claims it. There's a way that you can go into the settings to actually turn off the notifications, so you're not getting a bunch of notifications about how many points you've claimed or how many drops you've claimed. I have never missed anything while watching Twitch and having this extension go live. It has never missed or not claimed a drop for me. And I've been able to just have it on in the background. You know, usually Friday, I got a lot of meetings on Friday. I will usually have one of my favorite streamers up, whether it's like Fuzzy or Carities, you know, doesn't matter who it is, but I'll usually have someone up in the morning, and I'll just have their stream going. I'll lurk, I'll keep an eye on it. And while I'm working in meetings and getting stuff wrapped up for the end of the week, I'll be earning my Eastern Wind stuff. And thanks to the automatic Twitch extension, it's already there. It's already done. I don't have to think about it. And it's great. I absolutely love it. So again, February 24th through the 27th is going to be the Twitch drops for your partnered streamers. Make sure you guys are supporting them as well. Shout out to the ones that I frequent on a regular basis, because I absolutely love you all. It's fantastic that you're streaming so that I have an opportunity to continue to collect this content. So again, if you guys are out there and you're getting drops, make sure you're thanking your streamer for the time that they're putting in. Give them some love. If you got a Prime sub that's available, great time to drop it on them. Let them know that you appreciate them being there so that you can get this content, because without the streamers and without Rare, they wouldn't have the content, and they wouldn't be showcasing the content. So I appreciate them for being able to do that. But definitely make sure that you're doing that. And that kind of coincides with the fact that we have these double rewards going on. So it'll be nice to have the opportunity to go out there, earn some extra cash, get some extra renown, make some money, because I don't know about you, but we got some new content to actually play around with, and it was kind of nice to have some more stuff to go buy at this point. So let's take a break. We'll jump into the actual patch notes for this latest update, because there's some really fun stuff that came with it. Now, I want to apologize because I did not realize that the last update that we got, that was back on the date that is not showing up on the patch notes whilst looking at this, but it was 2.7.2, which, why doesn't their patch notes have a date on this? This is so strange. Let me go back and find out. This was January 18th. Okay, so the last update that we got brought with it a bristling barnacle set, which I went out and picked up all the pieces for the actual like weapons and clothing pieces. I didn't realize that there was actually a barnacle set that came for ships as well too. So there's a new version of the ship set for the Whaling Barnacle. It's a recolor that is now available and purchasable since mid-January. So if you guys didn't realize that, definitely go take a look at the different vendors over at the different outposts, because I did not realize that there was also a ship set. It was so caught in with the rest of the stuff that they were actually like putting out on the actual note for this on the patch notes, completely overlooked it. My apologies. Usually much better about that kind of thing. But we did get a new update this month. We actually got it a couple days ago, or actually last Thursday, technically, that brought us up to 2.7.3. Now, the fun thing about this is that it brings in more emporium content, which, as you know, is all kind of the real money stuff. And it's really kind of interesting to see like what they are actually doing with this. The weird thing about this, though, is that not only is it towards the end of a season, but it's also a crossover tie-in with one of Microsoft's other IPs. And if you haven't seen it, you're missing out because they finally brought Master Chief to Sea of Thieves. And I'm very, very happy about this. You can now go and purchase the Infinite Depths, which is the it's the play on words for Halo Infinite. The Infinite Depths ship collection costume, weapons, weapon pose emotes, and there is a freebie emote in there called the freebie armor mock emote, which is a play on the armor lock, which I believe I was just talking to Luke Lore about this. I can't remember if it's from, I think it's from Reach, where they had the armor lock. I got to go back and play Reach because I did not connect much with the actual characters in that one, and I'm being told that I need to go check it out again, so I might have to go replay Reach. But that is the free emote, so get out there, get your free emote. So if you want to get your armor mock, it's available, but everything is themed for Halo and Halo Infinite. So the costume is really fantastic. It is a green jacket. You have a metal spalder with some actual plate mail that goes down your arm. Your left arm. The hat that you're wearing is kind of a green piratey hat, and they have just it almost looks like a knight's face shield, but it is all green, and they've got a visor that's in between the two metal parts that's the gold. There's a nice little kerchief that's around your jacket that's yellow. You got a little container, a little wrap, a little I don't even know what I would call it, but like a parchment container, a little cylindrical thing on the back, the small of your back. And there's an emote that comes with the costume that is the music box. And when you pull out the music box, you pull it from the back of your head, which it took me a while to think about, like, why would you be pulling a music box out of the back of your head? And it finally clicked that is where Chief keeps Cortana, the little chip that has Cortana on it. So you reach to the back of your head and you pull out a music box that's blue, and you open up the music box and you get the Halo music. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do justice to it, but it's the Halo music. And there's a little woman that looks like Cortana, a little wood figure of Cortana, a little flat one, kind of like the skeleton that you see in the other music boxes that you see in all the outposts. And she just kind of turns, and you hear the little music, and it's like, I see. I'm not going to do it, but I want to do it. But you guys know that the Gregarian chants, the Halo music, and it is fantastic. The weapon set. Fantastic job on the weapon set. Oh my gosh. The Eye of Reach looks like it's trying to be a mix between a carbine and a needler, and I like it. It's got a pink scope, but it does not have a pink lens. So if you have those Cursed Reaper items and you think, I really love those, but the scope on the Eye of Reach is red, and it's a red hue, and it gives me a headache, don't worry about this one when you go to buy it, because the pink scope does not actually have the pink lens. The blunderbuss looks like it is taking on the Mangler, which is it's really cool. I love that they went with the Mangler on that. The pistol looks like a plasma pistol, which is great. It's got a little attachment. It has a couple little green glowy bits and stuff. Really fantastic job there. And the sword is a two-pronged sword. That is the energy sword, right? And I've been saying it all week. I can't believe that Sea of Thieves has a better representation of the energy sword than Destiny 2, who just celebrated their 30th year anniversary for being a studio, and put two swords in Destiny 2 that, if you were to put them together, would make the energy sword. But because Microsoft owns the IP for Master Chief and Halo, Bungie can't legally put in the energy sword, even though Destiny uses swords. It's so funny that Sea of Thieves has a better realized energy sword or energy blade than Destiny 2 at this point. It's so nuts to me. But I think they've done a fantastic job with this crossover. It's something that I love to see. I really do love to see how Sea of Thieves is able to take other franchises, other intellectual properties from the kind of breadth of Xbox right now, and find a way to have fun with it, and then build something that is in the style of Sea of Thieves, for their emporium sets. Now, if you remember me talking earlier, I talked about how there was an Infinite Depths ship collection, and I wanted to read the actual little bits from this because when I looked at this, I tried really hard to understand where they were getting the inspiration from. And I think it's from the Angry AI, which if you've played Halo Infinite, you know that there's AI for the multiplayer. I think it's one of the AI voices that they have for that, but I could be mistaken. There could be some sort of Halo lore that I'm just not privy to be able to be able to speak to properly about where this set is inspired from. But it's all red, it's all black, and it looks really interesting. But here's the little bit that they put in the patch notes, so I'll read this. For the Infinite Depths ship collection, follow in the footsteps of fellow outlaws beneath distant stars with this rebellious ship set. The collector's sails and figurehead are available to purchase separately. Pirates are looking for just the core components of this ship set, can purchase it from the essential bundle at a reduced cost, and it is really unique. It just has kind of a starry looking guy who is all red with red eyes. And the only thing I can think of is that it's a take on one of the AIs from the multiplayer aspect of Halo Infinite, but it doesn't nearly ring as cool as the Spartan set that was available back in, gosh, what was that? Was that 2019? I think it was 2019 that we got that Spartan set during E3. Where you could watch and get the really, really nice Spartan set. And I did, man. Oh boy, did I, when I got this costume, I went on my sloop, I put on the Spartan set, I put on the Master Chief costume, and I started clicking photos as quickly as I could. I got a whole bunch of goofy looking photos of me walking around. And shout out to Davram too. We were playing on Saturday, and he was, he was doing his kind of thing. He's usually in his ferryman outfit, and I told him, strip down, put on some purple pants and the sunken curse, because I think you're gonna be the really large chubby arbiter, and you'll be the arbiter and I'll be chief, and we'll we'll role play as the Halo ship and have our fun with it. But it's really, I gotta say, like, they really did a fantastic job with the emotes, with the weapons, with the costume, with the ship set. All of it does really look fantastic, and it's one of the best crossovers that I've seen. I think the Gears ship set probably up there as well. The Royal Squirrel definitely up there for Conquer. And kudos to the team for getting imaginative and really pushing to have some fun with this, have some fun with the actual Halo Infinite, because I think Halo Infinite has a lot of good points. I think it's been really struggling with its direction, but that's a whole nother story. Still really love that game. Fantastic game. So glad I got to do the campaign co-op and get all my achievements for it. So glad that I got to play through the campaign a couple times. Really, really hope that game does something in the future, because really good one. I like that one. So the next bit of stuff that I wanted to talk about from the patch notes actually ties into the battle for Sea of Thieves. Season 8 is still in full swing, and they have been working tremendously hard to try and bring balance changes and cut out as much exploits as possible. One of the things that they said in the actual patch notes says matchmaking improvements. So further improvements in this area are now increased the size of the matchmaking pool, allowing players to find more crews who have joined the fight. These improvements work towards reducing matchmake times and improving the suitability of skill-based matches. Really nice to hear that, because I know that one of the main issues that happened is that after a while, you would start to run into really, really long queue times, 30 minutes, which is honestly unacceptable when it's a brand new system. Like, the queue times should be almost instant for a brand new PvP system that everyone's jumping into to get content for, right? So the fact that we are running into extremely long queue times in the first season. I'm glad that they worked on that, because that is definitely what will make or break it for a lot of people. And they also made some changes as well too. So the Athena's Fortune emissary flags. Now, if you're familiar, matchmaking can now be done against same faction battles. So in the battle for Sea of Thieves, Athena Fortune emissary flags won from faction battles. That's key. That they're specifically won from faction battles, can now be handed to the mysterious stranger in return for gold and reputation. This ensures that players can profit from same faction battles as well as rival faction battles. Now, this doesn't count for those of you who find an Athena out in the open. You're not in the battle for Sea of Thieves. You're not diving. You're not defending. You're just out and about. If you find an Athena's Fortune flag just willy-nilly, they're not going to take that one. It's only for faction battles. Make sure you remember that when you find a flag. Don't think you can just take it to the Athena's Fortune. George is not going to take it off your hands, so don't even ask him. They also wanted to talk about some other gameplay improvements with this. One of them is ghost ship damage balancing. Player ships colliding with a ghost ship during an encounter will now result in reduced hull damage. If you have been doing, which is the one that's really rough on you, the ghost ship ones from Order of Souls, those are the ones that really hurt you. The ancient veil or the veil missions, the Athena's ones, those ones don't really hurt that much. You can sail through one of those ghost ships and it won't really mess you up, just like how the water is not really real. With the regular ghost ship battles, nice to hear that the ghost ship damage will be pulled down a little bit. Kind of trivializes what happens with galleons, but definitely makes things a little bit easier for sloops, especially if you get caught in the middle of a big wave of them moving through you. That can be extremely detrimental if you start to get like 6 or 7 holes in your solo. The other thing that they brought in with this was hiding ship names. Captains now have access to a new setting, providing creators with more control over their ship's crest, the banner, and the logbook. Captains enabling, quote, hide my ship name from others will now find the ship's name is replaced when their ship is viewed by another player. The existing settings for replacing gamer tags, ship names, and captain's gamer tags have all been renamed to improve consistency. The thing that I wanted to bring up with this is I was sailing with Davram and we came up against a ship that had an impronounceable name. We could not figure out how to act. And to this day, I can see the letters. I could not tell you what the heck this name was supposed to be. The weird thing about this is that they were at an island where we had to go to finish up a tall tale. Because we went sailing this weekend, we tried to get more tall tales done. We got all the way up to the shores of gold and then ran out of time. But as we were playing through, we went to one of the islands, Sunken Grove, to go finish up the Revenge of the Morning Star. You have to go, obviously go dig up the chalice of resurrection. And when we were there, there was a sloop that was just kind of chilling there. And we did a little bit of a lap around because we figured, you know what? We've been being a little salty. We've been fighting some people, most of the day. It's a sloop. We're a sloop. Why don't we just, be chill with them for a little bit? We just want to get there and do our thing. They don't have to bug us. We won't have to bug them. We fired off a couple fireworks. No response. We did a sail by and we saw one guy on the island get killed by a skeleton captain. Didn't bode well. Speaks a lot to the quality of the pirate who succumbs to a captain, skeleton captain, right? So I pull up next to the boat, and as the person who's on the ship that we can't pronounce the name is trying to get back to the island, they get swarmed by a bunch of ghosts. Phantoms, right? And I'm like sitting there in front of their ship wondering how they're going to react. Davram's off trying to actually get the chalice of resurrection, bless him. And I was just sitting there thinking like, I could probably shoot a couple cannonballs and knock out some of these phantoms, make it a little bit easier for this person. Hey, maybe they might actually come talk to us. Sure enough, I killed a lot of the phantoms, and sure enough, the person did come try to talk to me. But they must be using a new type of sign language that involves a sword, because all I could make out was "you must die." But it was only through sword swipes. So I had to kind of put him down in place and say like, okay, this definitely feels like a kid. There's no audio. There's no communication. They're just here. They're having trouble. They don't try to communicate with me in any way. And the first thing they do is climb onto my ship and start trying to sword swipe me. So most likely a kid. I'm going to say, probably Squeaker. Bless them for wanting to hop on to play some Sea of Thieves. Love to see it. Get him, you little pirate. I hope you become a salty sea dog in the future. And we ended up having to sink their boat because obviously, like, I'm not going to babysit the Squeaker while we try to get the chalice of resurrection. We're running low on time. I gotta go help with dinner, and Davern and I were wanting to try and finish up because it's already late for him on East Coast. So sank him. We got the logbook. This is the long story, by the way. We get the logbook, right? And it's the same name that was on the ship crest, also on the banner when we scoped in to check and see like what type of ship it was, right? It wasn't until we got to the end of our mission when we were sitting there and we realized that we still had a book as we were turning into Plunder Outpost, because that was where the end of the mission is, right? Turn in Shroudbreaker Stone. And we turned in a bit of the loot that we'd gotten. I can't even remember how we got it, but I forgot that we had the book. And when I picked up the book, I took a look, and it was the same stats that were on there when we looked at the book earlier, but the name was completely different. And it really made us kind of confused, because it was like, that's not the name that we both tried to pronounce, that I still can't pronounce, earlier when we were kind of dealing with this sloop. So I know that they have probably set it up so that hiding the ship's name from others will work. The question that comes into my mind is, will it work if they leave the server and you still have the book, or will it revert back to the book or to the actual name of the ship that it is and not the replaced name? So if Rare is listening, hopefully you guys are still kind of tuned in on this kind of stuff. I would definitely take a look to see, does the book retain the made up name for the ship even after the crew leaves the server, or does it revert back to what the actual name of the ship is? Because if you're looking to avoid harassment and you want to provide a captainship for your crew to earn milestones, as well as, earn milestones for yourself, but you don't want to deal with the repercussions of getting bothered because you don't want your name to be kind of present, then I would definitely make sure that it stays all throughout the entirety of when that book is made available, either through looking at it from your actual ship, or if someone sinks you, or if you leave the server and someone comes in and finds that book. Davram actually made a really nice question for the Sea of Thieves episode, which I'll kind of get to some of the stuff about that, but actually brought up the question, will there be a way for us to be able to store the book, our captain's log, so that players can't just go and turn it in? Because it's kind of a shame to have to deal with the fact that, like, I didn't sink, I was successful. Why are other people making money off of my ship's log? I personally don't mind either way. It doesn't matter. I leave karma crates from time to time, so it's not a big deal. Plus, I'm not even there to even really have it. So there's no context for what type of person I am or what type of ship I run, just based on you finding a random book in the ocean. Just the same way that I don't care who any of the people are in the books that I find when I log into a server, go out to my ship, and find something glimmering in the water. It's just another item. Sometimes I use it, sometimes I don't. Most of the time, I'll just throw it on my boat, and if I happen to be swinging by reapers, I'll chuck it into their, library and let them live with that, and I'll get a little bit of coin out of that. But I hope that this is working beyond just when not the customer. That's a weird way to say it. When the pirates that are on the server happen to leave the server, right? Ahoy there, pirates. This is the ad for this episode, and I did want to let you know if you wanted to avoid these and just get a regular filler, you can head over to the Patreon. There's a special feed just for patrons that get the ad-free version. If you want to keep listening, though, I can't say I blame you, because this week I want to let you know about Loot Crate and getting 15% off of most crates and crate subscriptions when you use the link and code RobotsRadio in the show notes. Also, you can head over to audiobooks.com, get your first 3 audiobooks for free, and that can include any 2 VIP books, or use the affiliate link for Green Man Gaming. If you're a PC gamer or you'd like to save money on games, it's one of the benefits of being a PC gamer. Head over to Green Man Gaming. You can get codes for Steam, Epic, any of the different stores that they have deals going on. They have deals going on all the time, and if you plan on buying there, please consider using our affiliate link. All of that goes straight to me through the network. Thank you all so much for everything that you do to support this podcast. It means the world to me, and I continue to try and improve the quality and the content for you. With that, pirates, let's get back to the show. Boy, I gotta apologize, because you know how I was like, hey, I gotta get you the time-sensitive stuff at the front of the episode. Well, I'm 30 minutes in. I forgot to talk about the free Pancake Puzzler emote. There's a free Pancake emote if you log in between the February 17th and February 24th. So there's still time. You're good. You still have a couple days to be able to jump in, but definitely make sure that you're doing this. You only have to actually go into Sea of Thieves and play for a little bit. That's all you have to do. It'll be automatically delivered to your vanity chest. There's nothing you have to do, nothing you have to worry about, but I do want to make sure that you are aware of this. So before 24th, 10 a.m. UTC, make sure that you log into Sea of Thieves to get this free pancake flipping emote. And I'm not saying flipping is like a, you know, I'm saying flipping is like you're actually flipping the pancake. It's actually in a pan and you throw it up. It's not like a pancake. It's like a flip the pancake. So hopefully you guys remember to do this. I again, super sorry I didn't put this at the top of the episode with the rest of the other time sensitive stuff, but make sure you're getting in there and getting this as well too. Other things that actually came to the game that were actual cosmetics, fancy enough, the outposts, the clothing shops now have a mauve Majestic Sovereign clothing set, which is close to a plum but a little more brownish. That's going to be available for now. If you guys want to purchase it for gold, it's in the game forever. So don't really worry about like when you get it. You just go and buy it whenever you want. And we also got some new vanity items. Again, this is over at the clothing shops. This is going to be able to give you a new type of hair, a new type of beard. And this is really this is kind of exciting. There's a new Ancient Ward tattoo that is, I can't even think of it. It's been in the game artwork for so long. It's in the art book. It's in the actual like spoiler stuff. There's a couple of the first crew that have it. You could actually get it, I believe, from the Infinite Pirate generator as well too. Like it was something that you could actually get on your pirate, but you had to like roll the Infinite Pirate generator for, you know, a solid 16 to 36 hours if you wanted to try and find the right pirate for it. But if you'd put in that time, you could have potentially have actually gotten the Ancient Ward tattoo, but that's available now for gold. You can actually just buy it, wear it. It's a beautiful tattoo set. I actually really like it. But I have the old Keelhauled logo one that has just been on my pirate for years at this point. I've never changed my tattoo set. It's always been the same one. I also have the same scars too, ever since the cursed sales event. Never changed the scars. Scars and tattoos are all the same. Those are never changing at all. I'll change other stuff sometimes just for like Sea of style stuff, but I'll get into that actually in a hot minute. Actually, you know what? Are we done with the rest of the stuff? Is there anything else going on? Okay, there's a couple fixes I need to talk about. I'll get into the Sea of style stuff in a minute though. Gameplay. Let's talk about some of the fixed issues so that if you see these issues happening, you can let Rare know, hey, by the way, you thought this was fixed. Double check this situation because we ran into it. Ammo crates being held by another pirate can now be harpooned. Yay! Players attempting to stand on a barrel attached to a ship's harpoon will now find themselves slip off into the water. Good. Players using the harpoon while migrating across servers will now find the harpoon remains usable on arrival. Very good. Pirates traveling through the tunnels of the damned with a barrel attached to their harpoon will now find they can release the item and continue to use the harpoon within reaching their destination. Very good. Gunpowder barrels aboard a ship will now be detonated by attacks from ghost ships, megalodons, and krakens. I don't know who's putting gunpowder barrels where that they would get detonated from a ghost ship, a megalodon, or a kraken. If you're doing this, really need to reconsider where you're putting those things. Like tip of the bowsprit is preferred. Crow's nest, if maybe you're kind of kooky, back of the ship if you really don't feel comfortable putting it on the bowsprit. But those are now susceptible to ghost ships, megalodons, and krakens. So heads up on that one. Taking resources or fireworks from a crate and then using a sunken merfolk statue to return to the ship will no longer refill the crates with items. So no cheating, you people out there. The contents of storage containers will no longer revert to default values after migrating to a new server. Yes. Thank you. I usually don't migrate to servers, but that is a rough one right there. And then the exclusive Athena's Fortune items from the Legend of the Veil Voyage will now progress the hider of legendary secrets commendation, which if you don't know is when they put in the burying stuff. Pondies will no longer appear in the lower level of sea forts. Boo! Boo! I don't like that. I liked having Pondies down there. That's BS rare. I don't like it. Bring them back. The battle for Sea of Thieves. Let's talk about this. Here's some of the fixes that they put in. Dropping treasure off the side of the ship while sailing below the waves no longer causes the item to float away above the ship. If you accidentally drop a flag off your bowsprit, I didn't do it. It wasn't me. Players can no longer beach their ship on an island during the battle to be moved outside the battle arena. No skipping islands. Dying when diving below the waves to hunt another crew will no longer cause the battle to fail or for both crews. I didn't know that was a thing. That's a terrible bug. The commendations entitled His Favorite Crew and Risk It All now have updated descriptions clarifying that any faction ship destroyed will progress this commendation. Very helpful. And then the commendations entitled Quite the Collection and Souvenir now display all requirements in their descriptions. There's some other stuff that goes into the Captains of Adventure. Captains savoring a livery, decoration, or trinket should now consistently find their saved customizations, persist between sessions. I still having some problems with that one. Crews will no longer find their ship fails to release a captain's log when sinking, even when the server already contains many ruined logbooks. That's a weird one, but I guess it's yeah, I don't know why that one's fixed. Like, it's okay. Let's see if there's any here that really does. There needs to be a hotkey. Rare, if you want to do me a quality of life favor on this one, there needs to be a hotkey that if I want, I can lock the cosmetics for even myself, so that it's not just the crew members, but it's also myself. So I don't accidentally go and access the trinkets or the trophies when I'm trying to put a piece of fish down on the stove. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to try and pick up a fish that's about to get burnt, and I accidentally open up the trinket menu because it's like right next to the stove. So if there was a way, a little toggle in the settings to be able to toggle that, very much appreciate that. Great quality of life, easy win for me. Starting and canceling the Legend of the Veil Voyage should now ensure that treasure from shipwrecks is removed from the world. I think that's a persistent one from old stuff. Not too big of a deal on that one. User interface. Cycling through throwables used as assigned hotkey will no longer cause the cannonball section on a player's radial to disappear. That's good. Accessibility. The disable blur option now continues to function after traveling through the tunnels of the damned. Thank you. Much appreciated. And I think that is it. Yeah, they're still working on server performance. They're still working on lower performing hardware to make noticeable improvements for speed and textures when loading into an approaching island, so you don't get the Nintendo 64 islands out there anymore, or the PlayStation 1 islands. And then improve server stability to help prevent instances where using a harpoon could cause players to be disconnected from the session. I know that there's one in here that I'm missing. I can't remember where I saw it, but I do know that they ended up fixing the harpoons at the Sovereign's. What is it called? Tower? What do you guys call the thing that's over there? The Sovereign's turn-in point. The little harpoons that are up there will no longer hit something, not allowing you to be able to use those harpoons. Those now work, which is amazing. Thank you so much for fixing that. All right, I think that's going to do it for the patch notes. Let's talk about, what do I want to talk about? What do you guys want to talk about? You know what? Let's talk about Style of Thieves. We're going to be talking about the themes. This is opening up on the 20th, which if you're listening to this, the date's released is today. You have 1 day to post your entry before it moves into the next one. So entries open up on February 20th. The first one is historical dress up. Transform your pirate into an iconic figure from history. Remember to include the name of who you've embodied in your post submission. Again, this is going to be over Facebook. It can be in the Discord. It can be on Instagram. It can be on Twitter. Any of those you can post, and you just have to make sure that you have the right hashtag for the right thing. So Twitter, @Sea of Thieves, hashtag Style of Thieves, all together. Instagram, hashtag Style of Thieves. Add your entry to the reply for each daily theme post on Facebook, and post your entry with hashtag Style of Thieves in the Pirate Fashion channel on the official Discord. So the 20th is going to be historical figures. The 21st, Athena ambassadors. The 22nd, party gear. And then the 23rd is reaping reapers, or repping reapers. So you have your themes. Good luck to all of those. It's all going to be done internally, so you have a better chance of winning if you're not popular, like I don't know, someone who's popular, and make sure that you're getting in those different things. I have no clue. This is actually a lot harder themes for me right now. So I've been racking my brain on trying to think of like the perfect person to be able to dress up as. I'm going to try and stay away from powdered wigs though, because I think that's kind of I think it's a bit of a cheat thing. But we'll see. I'll see if I can do that. Again, no emotes, no crew photos, no environmental details, as plain a background as you can possibly make it. Showcase your style, not the inventiveness of what you can do around it, and try and do something outside of the actual clothes themselves. No costumes either. So get out there, get your style on, and hopefully you guys get those fashionista gloves, the finery gloves. As we're kind of moving out of that, I wanted to talk about the actual Sea of Thieves episode 10 for the official podcast. Now, if you don't know, Sea of Thieves does an official podcast. It's about every 6 weeks, roughly. Hopefully they try to keep that as much as possible. You're getting the top devs for this, so don't expect that they're going to be able to have this on a regular cadence. They're very busy. Working the job that I work, I'm amazed that I'm even able to really like get a couple of the meetings that I do get in just because I'm usually so bogged down with other stuff going on. But I wanted to talk about some of the stuff that they brought up in the actual podcast because I thought it was interesting. And there's been a couple tweets that have come out from Mike later on that were really kind of interesting. So season 9, mostly going to be quality of life. Fantastic to hear that, because with season 8 coming in with just PvP, it would be great to see some really good changes that really embody some of the role play aspects of stuff that's going on in Sea of Thieves. They talked about duels on Twitter, and Mike didn't say that duels were coming for, fights within your crew if you wanted to do a duel, but that's something I know that has been talked about for a long time. So I imagine that's going to be a good quality of life thing that we could probably see. They've also talked about clothing loadouts. This is something that Mike's confirmed in the past. Clothing loadouts are going to be coming to Sea of Thieves. very excited to have that. I love having different characters that I play as my pirate so that I can have different sets. So if I'm a captain, I'm wearing a captain thing. If I'm wearing, if I want to, get into some weird garb, or if I have a character, like if I'm never going to get another pirate for my account, and I will only ever have the one pirate that I have, I at least would like to have the ability to change costumes without using the technical costumes. I just want to be able to create my own look and then save that look and call it stupid look number 4. And then if I want to, if I'm in the middle of something and I want to go change my outfit to show it off to someone, I can go into the little clothing chest, click on stupid look number 4, and then poof, I've got a beautifully stupid costume. And I'm looking forward to that. I know that they just announced that they have a co-dev partner that they are going to be able to help with focusing on stability and quality of life things. This is nothing new. This is something that they've actually announced in the past. This really does kind of reaffirm that they are looking to have the main team at Rare. Because right now I don't know if you guys know this. Here's kind of a little breakdown. Maybe this helps, maybe it doesn't. A lot of this is kind of built off of what they've talked about in the past. They have multiple teams, at least 5 teams there. And each team is kind of in charge of their own little thing. Each team is kind of working on a season, and they've got a theme going, and they're working on that theme, and they're going to worry about like when it's going to be available and what kind of the key features are for that different season. And everything kind of fluctuates because, believe it or not, the teams help each other. And some people will be working on one thing. Other people will take like a vacation, and there might be a very high important thing that gets pushed out. So there's always kind of this fluid timeline that's getting shifted slightly here and there. And features will, either not make it to a season and get pushed to another or not. But they have a fair amount of teams working on this. They have 2 different companies that they're working with right now for the cinematics, as well as the stream content that comes out for Rare. So, and I do want to actually showcase this too. If you happen to see something from the stream content that comes out and it puts in an item that is used for something specific, that is not always necessarily a teaser. That is not necessarily like a hint at something, right? Sometimes they just are using an asset because it's not the Rare team themselves. That looks cool. That will work for the stream assets that they're using right now, and be able to have like something look really nifty and inviting and engaging, and just trying to drum up some of that visual style of Sea of Thieves. And not everyone is going to remember the importance of certain things, but they try to go through and comb through all of the different things that they're going to be using for upcoming content, and make sure that they run it past a quality check to be like, hey, do you think anything in this is going to ruffle any feathers or send the wrong message? And that has to go through approval. That has to go through a lot of things. And sometimes people are just so in the future at Sea of Thieves that they forget, okay, is this out yet or is this not out yet? Because if it's not out yet, then we have to take it out and replace it with something else. If it is, then we should be good to go. And a lot of people are not always like keeping a close eye on everything, right? They're looking at the whole picture as a whole, and nothing really jumps out. We, the eagle-eyed fans, will take everything and instead of taking it with a grain of salt, we will 100% assume that it was intentional and with purpose, like they've done in the past for some stuff, and try to label that as a tease or a hint or some sort of thing. Like, if you want to look at what's coming in the future of Sea of Thieves, the best thing I can point at is when they do their news videos, and sometimes they have footage in the background that has something that has not been released. We've seen that a fair amount of times, and we've reached out to the devs on Twitter, and they say it's coming. It's just in the video, but it's not coming yet. It's just it will be coming at some point. I can't remember how I got on that. I really don't. Oh, we were talking about teams. So there are multiple teams that are working on the different seasons. We know that they are working with a co-dev team who are helping to kind of make sure that builds that are going out are getting tested more frequently, that they're able to have them kind of work on the stability of content that's getting pushed out. They've talked about this in the past, and they're making sure that new content that is getting pushed out is also falling in line with making sure that content that just recently got brought out is not running into bugs or issues, which is a very hard thing to do with a game that has been out as long as this one, because every little thing needs to be tested, and that is a lot of hours. There are more players out there testing the game for rare and running into issues than there are devs who can actively play through the game to test for every case scenario. They can run the code and see if there's any critical errors, but players will always find weird interactions, either with hardware issues or with just finding exploits in the code where something doesn't work properly and it breaks something. We will always find those a lot more than the studio will, because they are continuing to work on their live game as they bring more and more content into it. And this is still like they're getting close to 5 years in, but this is the first time they've ever done a live service. I imagine whatever Everwild ends up being, if it does happen to be a live service game, which I'll go on record and say right now that it is most likely going to be a live service game as well too, just based on the trajectory of how Microsoft likes to have their studios releasing content. Rare has proven that they've been able to take a game that has not done as well at launch and really make it shine, really polish it up, and really get some fun content in there to make it into a dynamic, interesting live service game that is probably one of the best live service games out there as far as availability of content for cost of entry. Like, you only have to spend at most $30 on sale. Or I guess it's you could probably still pay more for that, but I've regularly seen the game go down to $20 to $30. Most of the time it's around $40. That is the one barrier entry that you have to have for Sea of Thieves, and an internet connection and games with gold. No, not games with gold. Xbox Live. Is it still Xbox Live? I can't remember if it's still Xbox Live. That's awkward. I think it's just Xbox. I have no idea. They changed something at some point. I can't remember what it's actually called now, but I feel like they retired Xbox Live, but I still call it Xbox Live. Whatever it is, you have to have it to be able to play multiplayer games. And I think that's really the only barrier to entry, which is so crazy to me. Sea of Thieves, all of the content right now, and I know you're looking at me, you're like, yeah, but I'm buying stuff in the Emporium and I'm buying the Blunder Pass, so it's not really free content, is it? Yeah, no, it is 100% free content. Everything that they've released since the beginning of the game that pertains to story or content that they've brought to the world, outside of cosmetics from the Emporium and the Plunder Pass, everything available for free. I wish Bungie took a sliver of that pie that was like free content pie and just offered that to Destiny fans, because boy howdy does Destiny want to bend you over when it comes to the fact that they're like, oh yeah, you got to buy the expansion for $40. Then you have to spend $10 per season. There's 4 seasons, so that's another $40. So after you're done paying for the $80, guess what? If you want any of the dungeons that get released this year, you're going to have to spend an additional amount of money for that as well. So when you really look at it, spending $100 on the collector's edition is a steal. And you're like, oh, it's gross, but it's true. I don't like it. It feels dirty. Get it out of my mouth. So there is a lot to be said when it comes to Sea of Thieves releasing content like this, and they're constantly putting out more and more content. And I'm glad that they're able to do so much with just the Emporium and the Plunder Pass. To be able to afford to bring on a co-dev studio to be able to help test and develop content for the game alongside the main teams that are currently currently working on the seasonal content that's coming every season, right? So anytime, it's so hard for me to get upset when I know how hard they're working on this game. But to speak to something that I think I was upset about was actually the cheaters. This is something that and I want to thank TN Professor. I want to thank Hefe, Patty, Peoples, any of the Chenzo, like any of you guys in the Discord that are the normies, as the Keelhauled crew, any of you that have helped kind of suss out some of the stuff that's been going on with the cheaters by providing links to stuff, especially TN Professor, who's been giving me links and breakdowns of sites that are cheating or offering cheats, paid for cheats for Sea of Thieves. I've been passing that information on to the community team so that the community team can take that information and then supply it to the people who are constantly working on trying to stop that kind of stuff. And this was confirmation in season the Sea of Thieves podcast, episode 10. They have talked about how they are working on fixes for the cheaters, that they have a zero tolerance policy. There we go. For cheaters. They will ban them. I think they even IP ban them, but I'm not 100% positive on that. I could have swore I remember them talking about that one time, where they IP ban depending on the degree of the error of the person, right? And I'm glad to hear that they're willing to do this. I'm a little bummed that they can't talk about it, because I would like to hear, like, these are the things that we've seen, and if you use them, you will get banned, because I think that goes a long way to say, like, oh, we're looking out for cheaters. Because if people are using the certain cheats, like the auto aim or the dropping kegs on ships, or, you know, being invisible or having immunity, things like that, if people know that Rare is targeting those specific cheats, you will start to see fewer of those cheats, in my mind. But they did bring up something that I thought was very interesting, and I would love to know a percentage on this, because I think it would help with understanding how minor this group of people who are cheating is, because it feels a lot more rampart than it actually may be. And I think that's just because of the nature of social media and interactions. And as soon as you start to hear that there are cheaters in a game, that's when you start to being like, that feels a little sus. Was that a cheater? Was like Call of Duty is, I think, the one game where I can actually sit there and be like, oh yeah, that guy's definitely cheating, because you can see what they're doing. You get the kill cam, and that's not something you get in Sea of Thieves. It's not even something you get in Fortnite that I know of. But at least in Call of Duty, you get the kill cam, so you can sit there and be like, I don't know how that dude killed me, but I'm going to watch this kill cam, and I'm going to see how long he was tracking from where I was. And you can watch it, and you can be like, oh my God, that dirty SOB, he is 100% like cheating. And you can report them like right then and there. So I'm hoping that whatever they're doing, that it's beneficial. I hope that they're at least having talks about, like, getting an anti-cheat set up for PC that's beyond just the Azure stuff, if that's what they're using, because boy howdy, it doesn't feel good. And it's to the point where it consistently wants to push me more and more towards the Xbox side of gaming, which is fine. I still really enjoy playing on my Xbox. I actually really do love having the perfect frame rate for that when streaming, because it's so much better. I don't have to have the down res graphics for my old beat up PC while I'm streaming. But I'm too used to mouse and keyboard. It's so hard. I'm comfortable with both, but I'm like definitely proficient in one, and I think that's because I started on PC. I think that's why. But oh man, I love my Master Chief Elite controller. I love my red Xbox Series X controller. But yeah, it's just the hacking stuff continues to push me away from wanting to play on PC. I don't want to have to deal with that if I don't have to, and I don't have to on Xbox. It just really limits like who's going to be able to jump in on me if I want to have like a spur of the moment crew member. What else were some of the things that I wanted to talk about? So they talked about the quality of life. They talked about some of the stuff that's coming. They're going to be announcing the new name. There is, if you head over to Golden Sands Outpost, they did some changes with this update. Two of the trading companies are now in new buildings, which are fantastic. They're so beautiful. Oh my God. The art team over there is just absolutely killing it, man. They need to be arrested for murder because they're just killing it that much. But the Merchant Alliance, the Shipwright, and the Castaway are still the odd folks out on Golden Sands Outpost. Everything else looks fantastic. But we have a statue that's set up with a cloak over it. And we don't know what's under the statue. I'm sure if people wanted to data mine it, they might be able to find out what's underneath of it. May not, who knows? They may not have actually named that asset in the game. They've been a lot smarter about that ever since people started digging out stuff for the mystery. And what I will say is that I have a strong feeling it's probably just going to be Merrick. I think it's just going to be Merrick, because at this point, like, Merrick was the one that really did kind of head up the whole saving of Golden Sands. Like, and if they're going to sit there and like rebuild Golden Sands because they were able to save it, it only makes sense. It's like, oh, okay, well, the catalyst to us saving it was Merrick, and Merrick's dead. So let's put Merrick as a statue on New Golden Sands Outpost, or whatever they're going to call it. You know, they might call it, Merrick's, I can't even think of something witty. I wish I could think of something witty right now, but, Merrick's Maritime place. Stupid name. But Merrick's place, and where everyone knows your name. And that would probably make sense because he's dead. He's down in the Pirate Legend Tavern, drinking away and whatnot when he wants to. And for all intents and purposes, it would make sense. I mean, it's not like they're going to sit there and be like, all right, we're going to have a tribute to Wanda, because Wanda was the one that caused us to have all these issues. And if it wasn't for Wanda and Flameheart, then we would never have had to rebuild old Golden Sands. And now that we've got new Golden Sands, boy, howdy. Thank you, Wanda, for being the thing that really kicked this all off. I don't think that's going to happen. I'm pretty sure it's just Merrick. It doesn't seem like a big surprise if that's the case. But it is kind of cool that they're doing that. And I love that they're building this up little by little. Also, whoever the environmental artist is that's kind of working on that, I know there's a lot of hands on it, but do me a favor. There's like a couple pixels on a couple of the things that are just a little off. You just do a quick little quality pass on that, baby. Just kind of like, grab that little X handle and just like, that'd be fantastic. I would love for that to just line up perfectly so I didn't look through the crack. One of the things that I wanted to bring up that I actually kind of liked, three more things, and then I'll four more things. All right, real quick. Solo players are going to be seeing a lot more content geared towards solo players, not solo players. Not like solo as in like Han Solo, but not like Han Solo. But if you are a solo player, or maybe you even just like hopping on Sea of Thieves for a little bit of time as solo to do stuff, they are looking to try and build stuff that it is taking that in consideration. So not like Shores of Gold, where it's miserable. They're going to try and do stuff like that. I don't know what that means. I imagine that it will probably mean less time on an island or sailing from place to place, a little more concise content, which would be fantastic. It really would. Thank you if that's the case. But it's nice to know that they're taking solo players into consideration, and they want to validate solo players as a fulfilling and rewarding way to play Sea of Thieves, because so many people are in the impression, and they touched on this, is that solo play is hard mode. If you want to play hard mode, you go solo. And there's something about that is really disingenuous to the folks that just like to hop on to have a little bit of fun, and maybe they're waiting for someone and they don't want to do it. One of the things that I'm constantly hearing from a group of friends that don't play Sea of Thieves, but do like to play Sea of Thieves from time to time, but it's not like their main go-to, is that when they only have about an hour to 2 hours to play, most of the time they want to jump into one of two games. It's either going to be Call of Duty or Fortnite, maybe Halo from time to time. But they don't want to jump into Sea of Thieves. And that's because currently, right now, the perception with Sea of Thieves is that you're going to be in it for at least a couple hours at minimum. And something about having content that is geared for solo players offers something in my mind that suggests that if we do run into a situation where we want to do something in Sea of Thieves and we only got an hour, that there's more availability of stuff to do in the game for that. It's something I've talked about a lot, where if you only have an hour, the best thing you can do, hop in, go do a sea fort, cash in, you're good to go. That is, it genuinely is like some of the best things that you can do in the game. You can go fishing for a little bit, you can go do a couple skeleton captains and dig up some stuff and turn it in. But if you want to get a fair amount of loot in the shortest amount of time, and you've only got like an hour to do it, sea forts are really the best way to go. And it'll be nice to know if Rare is taking time into consideration as well as difficulty when it comes to solo content. The other thing that I wanted to touch on is that they've got another mystery planned, and that the mystery that they have planned is coming after the 5th anniversary content drop that they have. Now, we found out that the Briggsy story arc is being delayed, and that the next adventure, which is, I believe, the Dark Deception. I don't have it up in front of me, so I can't quote it, but I think it's the Dark Deception. That one is not actually going to be something that will pertain to finishing up the Captain Briggsy storyline. So we're not going to be going to the Sea of the Damned in the next one, most likely, and not figuring out what's going on with the temple. I have a feeling that might actually indeed be the content drop for the anniversary, the 5th anniversary, which is really surprising to me because it is still a fair amount of ways away. We are still at least a month away from that content. So do they plan on doing the Dark Deception adventure? Are they planning on doing that and then whatever comes for anniversary and then the Briggsy stuff? Because they talked about the second mystery in this episode, and that the next mystery is planned out to be a timed window. There's going to be a time frame for when it's actually running, because they want people to be invested in the mystery the entire time that it's running. Whereas with the first one, there was a steady ebb and flow. They would release something on Twitter. We would play around with it. We would get something. We would go into the game. We would discover it. We would kind of suss out what's going on. And then it would dip for a while and we wouldn't see anything about that for a hot minute. And then something else would pop into the community threads on Twitter and whatnot. And that would kind of kick off a new thing. And then in between then we had adventures. We had community decisions. We had events, things like that. We had a new season. And so much of the narrative that was being crafted for that first mystery was left to the wayside, and so much of it to the point where people were hacking the game to, well, not hacking the game. They were, I can't think of what do people call it? It's not like, it's not a code monkey. It's a, it's not like an asset scrubber, data miner. That doesn't sound right. I think it's data miner though. They'll data mine. Yeah, they'll data mine the game to look for little things that they can find that might be tied to the mystery. And when they find that, they figure out what the next step in the mystery would be. If it's like swimming down to the bottom of the ocean in the middle of nowhere to find a shipwreck that has a bunch of stuff going on about DeMarco that no one had any idea on how to find, then they'll get bored, and then we'll find out about it either way. And it will ruin part of the mystery because we didn't have that connective tissue that took us from gold coins spelling out something to finding the spyglass to finding the wreck and then figuring out where to do the blah blah blah, and then it all gets lost. So they learned changes are coming. The second mystery is actually going to be a block of time after the 5th anniversary. So after that time, then they'll actually get in there and start playing around with what's going to happen with that mystery. And it'll be smaller, concise. I like it. Thank you. Do that more, please. Love you. I already covered one of the other things I want to talk about with the 5th anniversary. I'm glad that they're doing a big content drop for that. I can't wait. I'm really excited. I think they've got some really special stuff in store, and I think it'll be really fantastic. It's probably going to be the best anniversary Sea of Thieves has. Flameheart is coming back in his skeleton glorious form. Can't wait. Would love to see that happen. I think that might actually be kicking off with the new season. For anniversary update, it would be spectacular if that's the case. Who knows? It could be later on this year too. Could be an E3 thing. could see them do a thing with E3 where it starts off the way it started with that old 2017, 2016 E3 video that came out where he's actually, he's got the sword up and he's like, rah, and, they could 100% recreate part of that as a cinematic for E3 this year to kind of kick off like, hey, guess what? The big bad for Sea of Thieves is finally back and you can now go into the game in 3 weeks to go fight him and see what's going on, and then have him retreat back to Reaper's hideout because he's never actually going to get killed. So looking forward to that. Can't wait. Should be really fun. Let's get into questions, because we actually got some questions out in this week, and I was very happy about that. But if you guys have questions too, I definitely really please. There's a whole channel that is dedicated just to questions and feedback for the in the Discord for the podcast. But shout out to Super Pack who wrote a question who says, we've got more starting supplies now, and Rare has done a lot to make mechanics in the game faster and easier for all skill levels. They've said in recent podcasts that they want to make things easier for solo sloopers. Should Rare add the ability to run while carrying treasure? I see streamers doing the speed running treasure and storage crate thing all the time. It's finally time to bring that ability to everyone and just allow it as a... Is it finally time to bring that ability to everyone and just allow it as a mechanic? Thank you, CJ, for writing in. I really appreciate it. If you guys don't know, CJ also goes by Super Pack, who's Super Pac-Man, not Super Pack like the government thing. And he is the host, or one of the 3 hosts over at the Player One podcast, and is just a fantastic human being in general. Can't wait for he works for the companies that work on Tetris Connected and Res Infinite. So if you guys have any affinity for those, like, definitely go buy those games, because 100% support CJ. Anyway, chilling aside for my friends, the answer is yes. I would love for them to have at the very least, single-handed items, or being able to carry one item. If it's a small item, being able to run with it, I think would help a lot. I really don't like loot sprinting. I think it's something that is something that you can do on controller. It's a lot harder to do on controller. It is something that is affords people who are on PC the opportunity to really kind of take advantage of that reduce to hold feature. And Rare is fine with it for all intents and purposes, but it's clear that people want to move gear faster than they currently are. The Sovereign tower with the harpoon is clear that they don't care about how quickly people turn in content or turn in treasure to the sovereigns, because it's just one turn in point and you can do it very fast in a fast fashion with the harpoons. So they don't care about how quickly you turn it in at this point, in my mind, for captainships, which is a weird thing, but whatever. Not going to get into that right now because it's not worth it. But I do think that loot sprinting should be something that's either just brought to everyone or taken from everyone. And I'd much rather they just give it to everyone. Just allow us to sprint with treasure and have it be on a cooldown if it needs to be, have it be something like you have a stamina bar. I think not Flameheart. That doesn't make any sense. Falcor. I think Falcor's talked about a stamina bar in the past, and it tied directly to jumping, which I think was because it was the question about people who were double gunning and jumping all the time being harder to hit for console players. So there would be a stamina bar that would, you'd only be able to jump so much before you got tired, which makes sense. That's a logical step. I think if you brought in a stamina bar, you could have stuff like that. You could have it so that you can only jump so much before you get tired and you have to let your stamina recharge. You can only sprint with loot for so long before you just get tired. Because right now you can sprint as long as you want. There's no cutoff for how long you can sprint in the game. You can sprint for however long you want. Doesn't ever slow down. But if you're holding loot, I could 100% see them having a use for a stamina bar that would tie to jumping, that would tie to sword lunges. Sword lunges could have quicker recovery with the stamina bar. You could start building in fruit that gives you stamina. Start pulling it straight from Zelda. Come up with your own ideas about that too. But I could see a world where that would be super annoying, but if it didn't remove the ability to run infinitely in general, right? Like if you wanted to run and you weren't carrying anything, you've got great stamina. It doesn't deplete your stamina bar. But if you're carrying something, that's going to wear you down. If you're constantly jumping, that's going to wear you down. Stuff like that to try and facilitate a bit of balance, or at least a measured response to being able to move quicker with things that traditionally have bogged down your play style. And maybe that's like a baby step into deciding whether or not we should just be able to sprint with loot. Like maybe that's just like the gateway drug into getting that feature just turned on altogether. They can play around with it in Insiders if they want. If people are still playing Insiders, who knows if they are. But I love the question. I think it's a great way to really kind of talk about some of the things that you see other people doing that really is kind of like it is mostly relegated to PC players, which is a real shame because I think it's something that everyone wants. I think PC players are just getting away with it at the moment. That is a lot tougher for console players. So let me know what you guys think. If you agree, if you disagree, if you see the red flags and I'm not seeing them, let me know. Like, what are the things that you think is like, oh no, we can't do that. That like it would break this, and this, and that would just, it would be too tough. I'd love to hear some feedback on that one as well too, because we have the community episode coming up next week, I believe. And with that, it's going to be Golden Glory weekend. I understand you guys are going to be busy getting in there. We'll keep it short, 1 hour, same time as usual, 1 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9 p.m. UTC. GMT. I don't know. Why do we have to have time zones when the earth is flat? It just doesn't make sense. I think that's going to do it for this week, Pirates. I'm going a lot longer than I have in the past. We had a lot to cover. It seemed like last episode we didn't have anything, and I think that was because I forgot that there was a podcast that came out, and I totally could have talked about it then. But now's a good opportunity as any to be able to talk about it. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this episode. If you do, there's plenty of ways to get a hold of me. Head over to patreon.com/Keelhauled podcast if you want to show your support. If you don't want to show your support there, tell a friend about your Sea of Thieves podcast that you listen to at work or on the way home from work or to work. And if you want to say hi, there's plenty of ways to do that over on Twitter at CAPT_LOGUN or on the Keelhauled podcast Twitter handle, which is just at Keelhauled pod. Also, the Discord server is a great place to meet people, to say hi, to keep up with games, all kinds of fun stuff like that. The email address, head over to captlogun@gmail.com if you want to email me in. I did get an email. I don't have time to jump into it because it's a bit of a big ask, but I kind of actually want to jump into it. But I did get a question in asking to dive into some of the characters from some of the stuff that I talked about last episode. So I wanted to make sure that I at least address it in this episode. So yes, I did get your email. I am interested in diving into that a bit, but I gotta try and make sure that if I do that, I try and get as much information about those characters that you're looking to. So not to say that I'm ignoring it, because I definitely don't want to, but thank you for the email. I did get it. I just can't I can't fully address it this week. It would be way too tough. Other than that, if you guys have time and the opportunity, there is the YouTube channel. You can always like and subscribe there. That definitely helps with my feelings. I don't know if it helps with the algorithm, but it definitely makes me feel good. And also over on iTunes and Spotify, Google reviews, iTunes reviews always help me out in the way that they make me feel good or bad about the content that I'm putting out there. Spotify has a 5-star rating system, 5-star rating system that I'm always excited to see whenever I do check in on those. It's like, oh my gosh, a lot of people went and started rating this stuff. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. Not expected, but definitely appreciated. But I think that's going to do it. So Pirates, thank you. I love you, and I look forward to sailing with you on the Sea of Thieves.
been listening to a Robots Radio podcast. Smart shows for interesting people. Check out all the shows at robotsradio.net.
Nominated in New Jersey's Here Now Audio Fiction Festival 2020, it's BioShock, the Midnight Series. Based in the dystopian underwater city of Rapture, witness what it was like for civilians from different walks of life before and after Andrew Ryan's city fell. It's a tale of deception, downfall, and survival. BioShock, the Midnight Series, a podcast by Preston Hardin. Listen on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.
In a world where solid-state electronics and vacuum tubes are still meta, people never stop loving atomic-powered everything. A chosen 500 stepped inside a subterranean vault to be spared the nuclear horror of the inevitable Great War. 25 years later, they emerge after the fallout settles to retake Appalachia. Among them, two former rivals whose blood feud will tear West Virginia apart in their epic struggle for survival. Chad, a vault bro who has a strength of 15, an intelligence of 2, and is a complete wasteland dickhead. Simon, a complicated anti-hero who chooses light and hope, but accidentally becomes a cannibal and wakes up naked and afraid with a Scorchbeast queen after a date goes terribly wrong. What? I mean, it's a wild wasteland, right? This dark humor radio drama will have you driving off the road and crawling out from under the fallout. 2 men, 1 wasteland, and so many nukes. Chad, a Fallout 76 podcast, rated R, now streaming on your holotape player podcasty thing.